Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Sir Hunt on X, live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States. Got a little chilly today. Yours truly under the weather with a bit of a back problem, but I'm surviving. That's what I got to say. Uh, got this going on here earlier for the rest of the night, probably through the weekend. Supposed to be in the teens. Those of you guys living in Cincinnati, stay warm as best you can. Don't wind up like me because I'm not in the best of shape in the world. But I'm gonna go ahead and go through with this. Uh, Real quick before I get started, I got a couple notifications about what's going on Sunday with the Stripe the Jungle in Cincinnati. I was there last year, and I just want to say, enjoy the moment. It's one of the cooler, neater things Cincinnati probably will do all season. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to divulge the game because it doesn't have any playoff implications either way. Now to let's get this started. Of course, the game coming up here within an hour is the Broncos and the Chargers. I'm appalled at just how good Bo Nix has become in recent weeks. I mean, I don't know if he'll overtake Jaden Daniels for Rookie of the Year, but I've been very impressed with how he's come on and played pretty darn well. Actually, threw some very nice dimes at the quarterback position. Uh, with I don't know who the receivers are outside of Cortland Sutton, but Bo Nix has played very, very, very well in recent weeks. The Chargers, they always wait for that moment where the Chargers are going to charge her. As much as I like Justin Herbert and I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, that organization is basically Philip Riversing him at this point because they're not doing anything of significance. Now, they have had a pretty darn good season for the most part, but the way they looked Sunday against Tampa, I'm sort of at pause as to how far they can really go in the playoffs because Baker Mayfield just diced up a pretty darn good defense, and I mean diced them up. Big play after big play after big play. I think what's going to be interesting in this game is, which defense is going to make is going to hold serve, and which of the two quarterbacks is going to make the big plays when it matters most. Because I think both defenses are going to step up. The Broncos defense has been absolutely stout this season. We talk about Bolito at the linebacker position, and of course, Patrick Surtain spearheading that lethal secondary. Maybe you could argue Surtain's the best cornerback in the NFL. But either way, I think it's going to be a pretty darn good game. I gave a slight nod to the Chargers at home just because of after what happened at Tampa Sunday. I think they will turn around and probably play better. Wouldn't surprise me either way. I think it's a one-possession game. I think it's going to come down to less than a touchdown. We're going to talk about a 24-20-ish type game either way. I just think if if I had to ask me who I'd rather have, Bo Nix or Justin Herbert, I probably would go Justin Herbert. I understand why the Broncos fans like Bo Nix. I do too. Just Justin Herbert of the two right now is still a proven commodity. Top four quarterback in the league behind Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. I mean, he's pretty darn good, and I expect him to make the plays to get the job done and officially clinch the AFC playoff spot because they're jostling for those lower seeds with Denver. I expect Denver to eventually get in when they go to Cincinnati next Saturday. So just give you the brief preview there. Now for a little bit of some fun stuff. You know, the more you read about a certain organization, the more you read about a certain owner, the more you read about certain things in life, you just need to get a good chuckle. Maybe the biggest chuckle I've had in quite some time is what I read this morning. Took place out of New York with their weird of a character of an owner, Woody Johnson, who apparently nixed a trade with the Denver Broncos as because for wide receiver Jerry Jeudy because of a Madden rating. You heard it correct. The New York Jets rejected a trade with the Denver Broncos wide receiver just Jerry Jeudy because they were pleased with the rating of Jerry Jeudy in Madden. I had to say that slowly myself a second time just so I understood it. There's a reason why they're the laughing stock in the NFL with all of their moves they made. Let me remind you, when Denver and the Jets discussed a deal for Zach Wilson to go to Denver, the Broncos wanted the last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant. The Jets turned that down, gave him a higher draft pick, and the Denver said, "Okay, we'll take it." And of course, we know that what happened a couple of years back when they got the 40-year-old coward from Green Bay. It basically life's been hell for them ever since. But it seems like Woody Johnson loves him some hell. I never thought I would live to see the day where I find an NFL owner worse than Mike Brown of the Bengals and Jerry Jones of the Cowboys. Woody Johnson just found a way to trounce it. The dysfunctionability in that organization is beyond words, beyond indescribable. I could pull up every article from The Athletic that's wrote about this, all the documentaries on ESPN that's wrote about this. I mean, when they after they fired GM Joe Douglas, which is probably 3 years after its expiration date, Joe Douglas pretty much said, "I felt like I was talking to a bunch of kids." I mean, he's not lying. I mean, that's why Ryan Tannenbaum basically said adios. And Ryan Tannenbaum, that was necessarily the sharpest tool in the shed over there in New York. It makes you wonder who the hell is running that organization. To nix a trade with a wide receiver in real time, especially a caliber of Jerry Jeudy. Not saying Jerry Judy's Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, or even a Lad McConkey or Zay Flowers. But to nix a trade for a wide receiver because you're not satisfied with the Madden rating makes you wonder who's running the organization. I mean, I don't get it. But there's a reason why the Jets are the Jets. They're always going to be the Jets, and they're still going to be the Jets. And we had a bunch of idiots in the season who said they were going to overtake Buffalo to win the AFC East title. Well, look who's going to have the number 2 seed, the AFC, and look who's 4-10. That's to tell you who was the best team in that division all along. So I know I have a lot of Jets followers out here. Much love to you guys. But I'm sure some of you guys would admit the organization's a laughing stock. And they found a way to be a bigger laughing stock than both the Cowboys and the Bengals. Let that sink in for just a minute. If you find a way for your owner to be a bigger laughing stock than Mike Brown here in Cincinnati or Jerry Jones in Dallas and across the nation, you must have done something seriously wrong. That's Woody Johnson. But the Jets are going to be the Jets until they find out what the core root of the problem is, which probably they never will. They're probably going to rely on, the internet, all these third level next gen and analytics, and now Madden. They'll never figure it out. They're going to be this way for as long as we know. So there's quite a bit more about them this offseason because they're going to be in the news for all the wrong reasons. And I'm surprised the New York media has let them off the hook the way they have, given how guile they can be, especially the way when they grilled Eli Manning when he was over there with the Giants for many, many years. We'll see how that goes. Before I get into boxing topic, sort of irked my skin a little bit, and I say this simply because I try to take a shoe in the other foot approach. It was announced earlier today, of course, that Patrick Mahomes is off the IR and he's going to go for the Chiefs against the Texans on Saturday. We have fans in Buffalo and Cincinnati, especially when it comes to their quarterbacks, accusing Patrick Mahomes of injury faking. Now, mind you, both fan bases here don't have the balls to step on the football field. Both fan bases don't have the balls to go through an ankle injury. Actually, I think both fan bases don't have the balls to understand what an ankle injury is. Look, sometimes injuries can get overdramatic. I get it. I mean, it's possible. I mean, it can be. You can diagnose it the way you want. But to accuse a quarterback of this stature of injury faking when the replay show, especially the playoff game against Jacksonville, and of course what happened Sunday in Cleveland, how basically his ankle like turn around. It was like turned the way it was. To accuse him of injury faking is one of the most despicable things you could do. You could say it's over dramatic, because sometimes people, the injury reports, that garbage in the NFL. They like to make things bigger than what they are. Have at it. But to accuse him of injury faking is one of the most despicable things any fan could do to any NFL player on the field. Because we had this in Cincinnati earlier this year when T. Higgins missed time with a hamstring injury. And now people across the NFL are trying to accuse Patrick Mahomes of this, especially in Buffalo and Cincinnati, who think Josh Allen and Joe Burrow are in the same conversation as Patrick Mahomes when they haven't done anything of significance to earn it. That's a key point. Look, people are getting tired of the Kansas City winning, but what do you expect Patrick Mahomes to do? Sit down, roll over and play dead for you guys? That ain't happening. I mean, if the guy has a chance to play, he's going to play. I mean, he even said what happened to him Sunday in Cleveland wasn't nearly as bad as what happened to him in the playoff game against Jacksonville. And of course, Bengals fans, being the spineless cowards that they are, accused Patrick Mahomes of faking the injury then, when basically there were times in that game where I watched it, he was noticeably hobbling, but it didn't help the fact that that Bengals secondary just got chopped up like diced liver and diced salad without breaking a sweat. I mean, Patrick Mahomes one leg did anything and everything they wanted to. But this ideology of injury faking is one of the most despicable things anybody could accuse any athlete of saying or doing, unless the athlete comes out and says, "Yep, I faked an injury." Now, mind you, we're not talking about the situation in San Francisco where Devontae Campbell decided not to win. I mean, that's a whole different situation. We're talking about a situation where fans are accusing players of faking injuries without knowing what the details are, without even going through what these guys go through. Of course, it can be said no team's 100% at this time of year because of the bumps and bruises, yada, yada, yada. That's up to you. But the thought of injury faking is one of the most despicable things you could do, unless the athlete comes out with his own mouth and says, "I faked an injury for whatever reason." There's no such a thing as injury faking because I'm not even entertaining it. Anyone, especially in Buffalo and Cincinnati, needs to flat out shut up when it comes to injury faking because it's just absolutely stupid. That takes care of my football segment. Now, of course, we segue to, I guess, what everybody calls my specialty. It's not really my specialty because I talk all sports: NFL, college football, NBA, boxing, MMA, but sometimes some baseball, and here soccer, especially when it comes to FC Cincinnati here. I know for my FC Cincinnati followers, schedule release today. I'll check it out after the show. I'll be seeing you guys at the games this season, obviously. Of course, the big news in the boxing this week is the rematch between Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury. The long face-off that lasted clockwise, from what I was told, was nearly 9 minutes. No one put the full 9-minute video, but it was tallied by credible people in the boxing community. It was 9 minutes. I got a chance to see pictures of this and the small clips. It might be me, but there's something off with Tyson Fury in this stare down because we know how Tyson Fury is. I don't want to say he didn't look like he didn't want to be there, but there's something that was just not right with this face-off because Tyson Fury always, as we all know, Tyson Fury is Fury, and Tyson Fury always has some kind of psychological, energetic warlord try to get into his opponents. I think maybe for the first time in his career, everything that he's known to do, especially the guys like Derek Chisora, Dylan White, and of course Deontay Wilder. Was it going to work on Oleksandr Usyk? Because I said countless times, Oleksandr Usyk is the number one fighter pound for pound, maybe the most eccentric, loose fighter when it comes to all of the preparations and the pre-hype, because he just basically treats himself as an ordinary guy. Of course, at the day of the face-off, when he introduced, he did the president dance. You know who that is. Had a little fun. It was just loose. And of course, when they had the face-off with Fury, he was basically a stoic character, just basically looking at him as if to say, "You're not going to bother me." I mean, that's what I got out of this. Now, of course, I got the comment last night about the Tyson Fury beard. Out of knowledge, I sort of giggled at it, but I think he may have a point. I would trace back to several. I can trace back to several fights, because the beard for a fighter has to be like, I think, barely more than a pinch. You can have it, because that's two things to protect your chin. Because of course, remember what happened in round 9 of their first fight. It is between Fury and Usyk. I got a comment here. Who they surround? What's up, Tyler Bowles? Hope you're doing good, my guy. Hey, if you go to the game tomorrow, enjoy it. I probably won't be able to go because it's gonna be Sunday. My bad. You're going to game this Sunday, enjoy it. I won't be able to go because I'm not 100%. So, but back to the Usyk Fury 2 situation. The face-off was long. I never seen a face-off that lasted 9 minutes. I mean, that lasted longer than the entire Marvin Hagler Thomas Hearns fight in 1985. Let's think about that for a second. Yeah, let's see here. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Yeah, I'll be seeing you guys more next season. When I head out there. But until then, so which brings me to another topic about the Usyk Fury situation, because I see this on my X platform and I got a lot to say about this. We have people in the community, especially in the American boxing community, yapping about Turki Alalshikh and what he's doing. Look, he's an odd individual. I will admit, he's a very, very, very odd individual. And I, as a fight follower, grew up with guys like Don King and the Bob Arum and the late Dan Duva when they knew what the hell they're doing. Different times calls for different things. Here's something I'll say to you guys in a heartbeat. If you don't like what they're doing, don't watch. Plain and simple. Don't watch. Don't follow the social media apps. Don't do any of that. He's a weird individual, a bit of an odd and awkward individual. Of course, we consider what boxing was with guys like King, Arum, and the late Dan Duva control the sport with their promotion and how they did things with their fighters. It's a different era. I will admit that some of the cards have been under a bit of a dull side so far. I try to watch with a different attitude and not put the times when I used to cover sports in perspective. I just watch it from an anonymous view. But is it stuff we're complaining about? No. Why? Because this is what it is at this point. American boxing has hit the downturn. We get it. There's no lies about it. But there was opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to try and make it the premier culture and all the sports for it to come to the States. Opportunities were blown left and right for many reasons. I'm not going to point to one specific because there's a boatload of them. But it doesn't help. We have people in the boxing community on Twitter, on Facebook, all these stuff to simply say, Turki Alalshikh is ruining the sport. The Turki Alalshikh is doing this. The sport was headed to this climax for a long time. We all know this, especially when the networks we knew like HBO, Showtime, NBC, CBS started to dissolve from this, or at least distance themselves from the sport of boxing, especially the political aspect of it, or that's where the problem really lies. Let me just say, for the record again, if you have a problem with what anybody's doing, shut up, don't watch, follow another profession, because I'm not entertaining it. Simply because it's not going to get you anywhere. He's basically telling me you're no longer a fight fan. That's what it is. Again, I said, odd situation with him, not the, I would say sharpest tool in the shed, because, think of what I had to grow up with guys like when King, Arum, and Dan Duva, when they knew what the hell they were doing. Maybe we'll get more later on, but right now, I guess I'm not not the biggest Turki Alalshikh fan, but I'm not going to make this garbage that 90% of you guys in the boxing community are making about him. So just do us all a favor, shut up, disappear, and don't watch. Plain and simple. That takes care of Usyk-Fury 2 and what goes on with all you guys in the community. That's why I distance myself here a little bit. By the way, there's a quick program reminder. January 9th will be return of the Jam and Sirhan Boxing Hour on the YouTube channel every Thursday, noon Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. to my English followers. Looking forward to doing that again. Now to my favorite part of the sport, because for all the people that yap about what's going on today, especially when it comes to Turki Alalshikh and you guys in the American and Hispanic boxing communities, take a bit of a history lesson. It took place in 1997, a fun fight that was basically a splash like none other. It was the American debut of the flashy featherweight Prince Naseem Hamed when he fought the warrior Hamed-Kelley. His U.S. debut, his HBO debut for Prince Naseem Hamed. You know about the theatrics, his entrances. You know, the crazy thing about this one was the entrance for Prince Hamed was so wild to where Hamed-Kelley basically just begged Prince Hamed to get in the ring. Actually, there was the camera as they were showing the theatrics. Hamed-Kelley going up the top of the corner saying, "Get in the ring now." I mean, he basically wanted to get in the ring now. Hamed, of course, was just dragging out the process. But of course, we know the theatrics of Naseem Hamed. What better way to make your debut at the mecca of the sport of the time, Madison Square Garden? Because he had the following over there. I guess a New York fighter who had a strong New York following in Hamed-Kelley, one-time legit world featherweight champion. This fight was basically a featherweight version of George Foreman versus Ron Lyle with bodies hitting the floor. But like Hamed was going to have control, he bleeps back. Kelley lands a haymaker overhand right. Down goes the Prince. And basically, the only lane that punch Kelley had in that round, but because he got the knockdown, he won it. Second round, they trade knockdowns. And basically, the fists are just flying all over the place in that featherweight division with these two. I mean, and you will see, almost you see the flaw in Naseem Hamed that when he would like to pull back, he'll pull straight back, chin up, leaving it exposed. There were times Kelley had success with it. That's why he had the knockdowns he did. Third round, in the early fourth round, looked like Hamed started getting control. He gets the early fourth round knockdown. Comes back. Of course, Kelley comes back, lands a counter right hook. Hamed is on off, basically on his gloves, trying to say it wasn't a knockdown, which it was. But of course, after that, Naseem Hamed said, "To hell with it." Basically controls the fight. 1-2, down goes this Hamed-Kelley, and he's basically down and out for the count. And Naseem Hamed wins the featherweight championship of the world. Or essentially retains it because he was a lineal champ. But what an American debut for Naseem Hamed back in 1997 today. One of the more flashy fighters who basically was more flash and substance. But as his career wore on, it was well chronicled. The flash basically was caught up to him. You know, he did get some solid wins in his career, obviously, over guys like Wilfredo Vasquez, Paul Engel, Cesar Soto. But of course, the tipping point was when he lost to Marco Antonio Barrera in 2001, where it's basically it. Of course, proceeded to abduct both Eric Morales and Juan Manuel Marquez, who was in that golden era of featherweights. But for entertainment value, Naseem Hamed knew how to put butts in the seats. You have to give him that. Maybe more like a modern Hector Camacho in that regard. Because like Camacho, Hamed brought a different kind of style and flamboyance. And basically showed the whole world what he was made of. And so, of course, for Hamed-Kelley, it was basically an end game for him. Up and down career the rest of the way. But an exciting fighter who, like in the Hamed in that division, brought a lot of excitement. Had an scintillating comfort behind knockout win over Derek Gainer, where both of his eyes were just swollen shut and he couldn't see. Gainer just made the mistake in the left hand that put him out. A respectable career from the featherweight division was Hamed-Kelley. But that fight between Hamed and Kelley, maybe for those weight classes and for that time, maybe the greatest little big man fight for that era. Bodies hit the floor like a featherweight George Foreman, Ron Lyle in that regard. It was simply fun, and it was a dazzling fight. A lot of talking both ways, a lot of taunting both ways. but they backed it up with a fist. Job well done to both fighters. And of course, when we speak of heavyweights, the one that took place is coming up with Usyk-Fury 2. One that took place on this day in 1998 was the first fight between David Tua and Hasim-Rahman, both undefeated heavyweights. These days, you rarely see two young heavyweights on the come up the way David Tua and Hasim-Rahman were going at it like this. Of course, I hope both guys were under the same promotion, which was main events. But there was two fights. The first 8 rounds and the first 2.5 minutes of the 9th round, and then the 9th round and the 10th round. Because the first 8 rounds and the first 2.5 minutes of round 9 was Hasim-Rahman just giving David Tua a boxing lesson. Tua did have his moments every now and then, but for the most part, it was all Hasim-Rahman. But at the end, as round 9 was starting to come to an end, Rahman started to slow down a bit. Tua started to come on. End of round 9, a left hook after the bell. This is where the controversy begins. And David Tua connects a perfectly placed left hook on the button of Hasim-Rahman 2 seconds after the bell. And the fight basically didn't even stall because you're supposed to give time to recover after a legal punch. Hasim-Rahman never got that. Come to the 10th round, Tua poured on. Basically, didn't really hurt Rahman anything because there were punches that were missed. And the fight was stopped rather weirdly in a fight that Hasim-Rahman had control. 2 of the judges had him winning 9 rounds to 1. But one of the most bizarre, weird endings to a fight probably ever. Maybe more controversial than Julio Cesar Chavez over Belgian Taylor, simply because Hasim-Rahman wasn't even hurt. I mean, he was basically ducking on the rope, slipping. He caught a couple punches, but wasn't really hurt and dazed. But it didn't help that the referee just told Hasim-Rahman, you only get the traditional 60 seconds of rest, but he should have gotten 5 minutes because it was an illegal punch, like 2 seconds after the bell that stung Rahman. But the fight was stopped. Chaos ensued from the Rahman camp. David Tua wins it. He becomes the mandatory challenger for the then winner of the Evander Holyfield-Lennox Lewis fight. He eventually got the Lewis fight. It was just simply outboxed. But if you look at this fight, if you would have told me that was Hasim-Rahman of the two that would have been the heavyweight champ of the world, I don't know what the hell to tell you. Because we know what he did to Lennox Lewis in 2001. Only for Lewis to come back 6 months later and just put him down and out for good. But we have two heavyweights on the come up like this. It's always going to open the eyes, and we know how the heavyweight division, especially in America, has just plummeted. Maybe this was sort of the last of a dying breed in the heavyweight division, especially in the States, simply because you don't see this anymore. I mean, we had Jared Anderson, but what was Jared Anderson? I mean, but David Tua got the win the first time. 5 years later, they had a rematch. Same thing here. Hasim-Rahman gives a boxing lesson only to get a draw out of it. Basically, the fight that were basically Rahman controlled from start to finish, like he did the first fight till the illegal punch happened. Of course, it prompted one of the premier interviews of all time, where Hasim-Rahman told Larry Merchant, "I outboxed this guy in 2 fights, but wasn't given credit for a win. What am I supposed to do? Kill the guy?" I mean, David Tua was essentially tailor-made for Hasim-Rahman. But that fight in 2003 is probably Hasim-Rahman, the end of Rahman as a top fighter. He did was gift wrap the belt largely because Vitaly Klitschko's injuries took toll, but then got knocked out in the rematch by Oleg Moskayev. Tua never got the world title, got one more title eliminator shot against Chris Bird, where he was thoroughly outboxed. But both guys had highlight reel moments, good and bad. But two very sturdy heavyweights in the back end of the 90s when the division was starting to have a turn. Mike Tyson was suspended. Holyfield and Lewis were basically at a stall before they fought. Riddick Bowe retired. No more Ray Mercer. Andrew Golota just could never keep his hands to himself. On and on and on. But you probably won't see two heavyweights on the come up unbeaten the way these two guys went at it in 98. It turned out to be two pretty darn good fights. Most part controlled by Hasim-Rahman. But, he never got to this, the one time he was an injustice with how the referee handled that one. And the second injustice was how he was robbed of a decision, how one judge scored that fight for David Tua was still inexcusable. As we know in the boxing community, we should never leave it to the judges. I thought Rahman missed the boat both times to do something with it, but what can he do? That's why it's incumbent. I say this all the time in boxing and in the UFC and MMA. Don't leave it to the judges. Get the knockout and go home. As simple as that. Let's see what happens Saturday night with Usyk-Fury 2. And this will wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. I will be back tomorrow. Talk more college football. Special program reminder, I will have a special edition of Sirhan on X Saturday night after the Usyk-Fury 2 fight, doing an analysis and recap, and a college football preview of Tennessee, Ohio State, so that way Ohio State fans can't say anything to me anymore. Until then, I hope everyone out there has themselves a wonderful night. I'll try and get better here soon. Shout out to Tyler Bowles. Hope you're doing well out there, my guy. Good night. Take care of yourselves. God bless and enjoy it.